This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, here we go. Okay, it's now 6:30 and I'll call this town council meeting to order. First thing on the agenda will be our invocation by Mary Teasley from the Surfside Methodist Church. Good evening.
Let us pray. Gracious God, as we gather for this meeting, come and let your wisdom fall upon us. Give clarity so that our leaders may effectively address each part of this day's agenda. We pray your blessings over all that we do. May productive discussions broaden our perspectives. Help us to resolve any disputes gracefully, be creative problem solvers, and keep the greater good in the forefront of all decision making. Lead us and guide us this night. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming. The next thing is there is no public hearing tonight, and the next thing I will take motions relating to the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I make a
Yes.
motion that we approve the minutes from June 9th, 22. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was ahead of you.
Since there's no motions relating to the agenda, I'll go over the next thing is the minutes approval for June 9th and June 29th.
I make the motion that we approve June 9th and 22 workshop meeting and June 29th, 22 the regular meeting.
Second.
Any discussion before we vote on that?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
When we were talking about chapter 8, I did not see anything in here when we were talking about the fireworks that we commented on that this is an autistic friendly town. And also we were concerned about our citizens and visitors with PTSD, which I think ought to be in the minutes. I didn't see it in here and I really don't remember who made the comment, but I know it was made.
You have any idea, Sharon?
I know at one of the meetings that we were talking about in chapter 8 that it was autistic friendly and autism friendly and all that. I can't exactly say which one. We've had so many.
Yeah, I don't think it was at the last meeting, the last meeting that we did the fireworks that we actually voted on 8.
Okay. If it wasn't, that's fine. I think that's important that we have a record that it was that it be in our minutes somewhere.
Is it on there?
Okay.
Any other comments? Mr. Stamey?
Yes.
Holder?
Yes.
Keating?
Yes.
Crecklaw?
Yes.
Kinkin?
Yes.
Drake?
Yes.
And I'm yes also. That passed unanimously. The next thing on the agenda is public comments, and these are public comments relating to the agenda. Do we have anybody that'd like to step up for public comments? Okay, moving right along. The next thing on the agenda is communications. And this is the Planning and Building and Zoning Monthly Report by Director Adair. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, citizens. The new construction is holding steady at 14 new single-family homes permitted since January of 2022. That's exactly the same number issued during the same period last year. Code enforcement currently has several cases open, including 5 residential homes that have been abandoned and are in need of repair or demolition. This has been a long and difficult process since the owners of most are now deceased and the properties are going through probate. So we're going to have to wait until probate's over until we can remedy most of those abandoned homes. There were code enforcement complaints shared by the public at the last council meeting. These complaints have been investigated and citations have been issued as necessary. In April of 2022, we issued 192 permits, down from 202 in April of 2021. 133 inspections were performed, up from 75 in April of 2021. The permit fees were up in April, $29,500, up from $21,900 in April of 2021. In May, 171 permits were issued, which were down 176 issued in May of 2021. 117 inspections were performed, which was up from 104 inspections in 2021. Permit fees were up $23,800, up from $23,041 in May of 2021. June, 151 permits were issued, which was down from 152 in June 21. 95 inspections were performed, up from 88 in June 21. Permit fees were down $11,900, down from $26,800 in June 2021. I've attached a number of permits that we've issued, the permit fees, and I've went back 4 years so you can kind of compare what where we are now, the number of inspections. And I did add this month the number of tree inspections and our code enforcement complaints and investigations. We do have a detailed list of the complaints and the investigations, including addresses and photos and any actions that have been taken that can be obtained from our department. And if council would like, I'll be glad to include all of that in our next quarterly report. But that's what I have. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Are there any questions of Mr. Dare?
How about on the business side, Mr. Mayor, on the business side of 17, are you seeing, I see a few more businesses popping up a little bit. I mean, what are you seeing in that aspect?
We are getting new businesses. They almost equal out to the businesses that are leaving.
Right.
Now, we do have a new commercial project coming up. It's in plan review now. It's a restaurant. So we're excited about that. But I'd say for the new businesses that you're seeing, almost the same number have left, unfortunately.
Is it just a comedy leaving, or is it something that you're seeing in Surfside or
No, it's across the board.
across the board?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next thing will be a peer update.
I'm gonna let John talk about the actual construction, and then I'm gonna talk about the vendors a little bit.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
I got an update for the pier. I'll start with building construction and things that are complete. On the building construction, the podium and ADA ramp and piles are 100% complete. The podium concrete is 100% complete. Stair Tower A, the pour in place concrete stairs in progress. Stair Tower C, pour in place concrete stairs is in progress. Buildings A, B, and C have been framed and sheathed 100%. Inspections passed. Building A roof membrane is 90%. Building B roof membrane is 100%. Building C roof membrane is 100%. So we're talking about the weather, barriers. Building A building wrap is 95%. Building B is 100%. Building C is 100%. Storefront windows and glass still in submittal review. There is some of that is tied to the surf diner. Okay. All the MEPs, which is mechanical, electrical, plumbing, it's in progress. Fire sprinkler drawings are still in the state. Now we'll move to category the marine construction, which would be front of the podium out to the ocean. Pile bents 1 to 5 are complete. One pile bent would be the horizontal, the completed, 2 piles or 3 piles. Pile bents 6 through 7 are installed with the concrete sleeve. Pile bents 6 and 7 are being formed to pour a pile cap. Pile bents Remaining are 8 to 13. So there's a total of 13 sections out to the ocean. Installing templates for pile band 8 is currently going on. You have 12 concrete pier support beams are installed from pile bands 1 through 5. So there's 3, they're precast manufactured in Florence beams that sit on top and connect your pile beds. And that's actually a pier. You have 12 concrete pier support beams are installed from pile beds 1 to 5. I just repeated myself. All concrete pier support beams are 100% fabricated. They're at the supplier's yard. Due to their size, there's no room on site to store them, so they come in as needed. We'll get into what we call outstanding submittals for return. So in the construction process, you procure it, you compile a submittal, which might be a shop drawing, product data, different data. It goes to the design team, and technically they need to approve it before you procure it. So steel handrail coatings, still outstanding. I'm happy to report after the selection and material supply issues on the siding, which ended up being the Everlast PVC siding. The first shipment, which is about 50%, is on site.
It's not on site, sitting at the supplier.
Okay. Yeah. So we're waiting. It's delivered.
You're still in the middle of review process.
So
We have it.
candidly, so what we did is to accelerate it. So it's earlier. We got it maybe 2 weeks before the scheduled time. So we released the material before it was approved. So now we're ready.
The architect's looking for more detail.
So-
Together. So we can't start installing it until we have information.
So technically the siding's here. We'll be ready to start putting up the siding in a few days. But technically we need to have the submittal approved and he wants to look at the siding, but the siding's going to work fine. Storefront glass is an outstanding submittal. Storefront glass samples, roller window shades, fire protection specialties, toilet compartments, and toilet accessories. That's okay. These are further down the line. These are some minor things. So they're not, I wouldn't say that that's a major issue. Stuff like the fire protection drawings up at the state, that could be something that we've got to focus on. The siding is something we had to focus on because they're critical path, major items. Okay, outstanding RFIs. I won't bore you with it. RFI 90, Surf Diner, restroom toilets. So we are still dealing with Surf Diner. 110 is steel handrail material. 111 is the redesign of the VE lighting. There's an RFI 19, which is a redesign of the railing. You still have, there's a dune walkover stair landing. It's not a major thing, but it does have to do with, I believe, DHEC, maybe OCRM. So it's a wood walkover structure, but it needs to be thought through to make sure it meets all the authorities. It needs to be designed. So not a major thing, not something to keep a project, but it is something that we have on the radar. Let's see here. Elevator pit waterproofing locations, RFI 132. 133 is the Pier access gate, which has been ongoing with Mr. Shanahan, the town, the design team, and us, just working out the final, the hardware and what you actually want it to perform. I would say the performance, or they call it a program, so that way it works. You know, you don't get a gate that doesn't function as your needs. So we're working with that. Change request, there's 2 options. So change request 29 and 30, that has to do with the infamous spray foam. So I believe 30, we have a recommendation from the manufacturer that's better and less money. So there's 29 and 30. Change request 31, 32, and 33. Bill and I are going to talk about it. That's the parking lot, which is added scope to the project. And we'll discuss that further. I think it's in design.
I believe designs are are done, so
Okay.
we can move forward.
It's not, yeah, it's not a, it's not
It's
a
not critical
complicated
because the
design.
other stuff has to be done first because they've got them big cranes and
Right.
stuff.
We gave, just to give you an overview, we gave like 4 options. So some of them were just putting a coating, some of them were milling, and then I think option 4 was the one that the town decided to go with, or the representation of the town, which is option 4, which would be taking it up, doing it right with base, and then putting in landscape and islands, you know, to kind of make it look like a better looking parking lot than a mall.
And can I jump in on that?
Sure.
And when they put that stuff together, you know, it's out, you say option 4 because it has those other things, but the cost of all of them was very, very close. So we're not jumping up, you know, going out for the big dollar stuff, just so you know.
Yeah, I think it probably meets the landscape. I don't know that you're subject to it, but it probably will meet more of the landscape and ordinances that everybody else meets. So it'll probably be more aesthetically pleasing and function better. Bring us to last in the change requests. Again, 36. There's a concrete pier handrail post. So just to get, when you go out to the pier, everything had been redesigned, most of it to be precast, which is a better and a quicker construction method. So you have your handrails that go out, and some of them are concrete. They're originally going to be poured in place, which you couldn't do. So those are being precast as well. So the precast concrete, and then they're connected with wood. So they're also made by the same company that made the beams in Florence. I got some notes here. So these are just some things that are on the radar that we can get handled sooner than later. Will be good for the project. Need locations for the garage, for the signage for the buildings. Cannot install the siding without locations. We'll need additional blocking out for flat surface to install the signage. We spoke about that this morning.
Yeah, I was going to brief on that.
So it's basically just coordination with the signs, how it's going to work on the building, power requirements, location. Does it meet code? Does it meet, is it for the tenants as well, or is it just?
Say that again?
It's not for the tenants, that's just the owner signage, correct?
No, we're doing it for everybody.
Right, okay. So that's a lot of stuff. This is a big one, I would think. The power at the end of the pier, I think everybody knows about that. So that's underway. There's still no clarification on the power requirements, but it's basically, you know, on your house, you may have a 200 or 100 amp panel. It's making sure that in this construction phase, we have enough power out on the pier to meet the needs of the town and potential tenants later. So we don't have to go back later and do some major, you know, improvements, which would be difficult.
Right.
So they're doing some calculations to determine whether it's going to be 200 or 400 or somewhere in between, and then how we get that out there. Grand Strand Water and Sewer Authority. My staff a few months ago did contact Grand Strand to get that ball moving. And we've been in contact with Mr. Shanahan, coordinated with Craig Dunn, who's the coordinator for Grand Strand. And that has to do with your meters and your impact fees and things of that nature. I did see an email from Doc to Craig today, and we haven't to follow up on it. And per Craig Dunn, the fees have been paid. Devices are on order, 7/12/2022. This is preventing the sewer and water from being installed. So when the devices are there, then we can do the utility work. Last one, still undecided. There's going to undecided if there's going to be a tenant renting the shade structure. As of the weekly meeting today, it appears like the town will not be leasing the space. However, they originally were talking about the guy that owns Neil and Pam's. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about vendors.
So if there's any questions.
I got one. Mr. Mayor, the parking lot,
Yes.
when you get ready to do the parking lot, if y'all looked at the fact, I've asked this a couple times about doing brick pavers. And if you do brick pavers, if you get town people to, with their names engraved on them or something, $200 a piece, be $300,000 towards that parking lot. At 1,500 people.
Councilman Drake, that is a good question. And there was discussions early on different options for pervious surfaces. And ultimately, I'm not sure why, but we were given 4 options, and it's asphalt and base.
Is what?
It's asphalt and base. So there was discussions, we're looking at, there's some poor products and things in that nature. I do believe, having pavers, there would be a concern with a storm surge picking them up. So if you did go with pavers, I would think you would have to use some kind of locking system, which they do have, like where you would pour it in. But it was discussed, there were things discussed, but ultimately the 4 options of designs that we received to price and evaluate were base, asphalt, and traditional landscape island buffers for drainage.
Yeah, it's like.
Well,
The base would have to be there regardless.
right, but the pavers would be something we could recoup some of the money, because I'd buy one for $200, have our family name on it and the kid's name or something. like Yeah, they do it at Riverbank Zoo. They paved the whole freaking thing that cost them a dime when they got
So-
through.
With the package, with the option number 4 that's in there, like Doc said, that's something that maybe even certain sections could certainly be explored, and it wouldn't be anything that'd be difficult for us.
No.
So if that's something the town
the
or the,
council.
wanted to do, I mean, that's not a problem.
Yeah, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I don't think that would,
Engraving is no big deal. It can be done.
you could, you could probably pick a couple sections that you wanted in certain
Yeah.
places, and that would not be difficult. I don't even know if we'd have to revise the design, other than a sketch. So that's something that could be explored, and I wouldn't think that that's, we're not too far down that road yet to do that.
I would think you'd sell more than 1,500 too. So that's just $300,000.
Like Doc said, I know they do it at Brook Green.
Yeah.
Um,
And anybody could buy one. People that visit all the time, to residents or whoever.
Well, and I assume this is something that's going to come in front of council for approval,
Yes,
that
Yeah.
this isn't just going to be another one of those things that all of a sudden we've issued a contract for something.
No.
no, there's some, before it goes to council, I'm going to prepare an email as to Mr. Shanahan to describe some benefits and some, I would say, recommendations for the contract in
But
general.
this hasn't gone through a formal bidding process or
No.
anything. This is just your recommendations to the town, of alternatives that we have to redo the parking lot.
Right.
Okay.
We worked with the engineers, we did coring, and then when they sketched up, they gave us directions, and we gave them estimates of pricing based on it. And then because the estimate of pricing was laid out a certain way, a selection was made to move forward to design, and that's what we have now. We're at that
Okay,
next step.
But we can add a level of creativity and strategic thinking, like Mr. Drake is mentioning, to improve. We're still at the place that we can
Yes,
provide improvement alternatives as well.
yes.
Okay.
And, without getting into too much detail, we're all experiencing some things with, material delays or design delays
Right.
or whatever. One of the things, it could be that there would be time associated with that. It's a clean way to kind of take away some of the other issues, is one of the
Right.
things, and nice and clean. And that can be started, some of the demo stuff can be started, with our contract in place, start exploring
Mhm.
and do some of those things. So I'll explain that. I'll give some recommendations in detail to Mr. Shanahan, and then he can show
Okay.
the council.
Mr. Mayor, my only other question is, where are our project managers on this? We're still running a considerable list of open items and challenges that aren't being addressed. I was hoping to hear that we are being much more timely in decisions and responses since we brought on board the project managers that were supposed to alleviate some of that delay and conflict and postponement of certain decisions.
When's the last time you heard from,
You're on a weekly. I haven't personally heard.
Yeah.
They usually call you.
there may be, they are involved, and my impression of the project managers is that they are experienced, they're reasonable and fair. However, we have to take in consideration, the head engineer has for Collins has gone to another company. So there is a little bit of that shuffle, who's taking the reign, I think.
And
So one of the engineers that was the design engineer, not the senior engineer, is still involved, but he had been on another project. So we've had a junior engineer. So I think they're still working that out. So that may be coming back into play in a week when they figure that out.
and
Okay.
I met with our consultants early last week, and we had Collins there, and we went through the open items, and we told them that they needed to be responded to ASAP. So we met with them just a couple of days ago, confirming that that stuff needed to be taken care of.
Well, I mean, we've been hearing for months on end about the handrails and the stair handrails and the lighting and, resolving issues with Surf Diner. So, I mean, I'm not seeing that we're getting much of our money's worth out of having project managers that are supposed to be driving this project or helping drive this project to completion, when every report we hear, we're challenging our contractor with not being responsive about the same topics. Every time we have this, we're still talking about the siding, we're still talking about the handrails, we're still talking about the steps. I'm surprised we're not talking about the ADA ramp. We
ramp-
must have got something.
ADA ramp is totally done, corrected, in place. The missing columns are installed. The
Yeah.
stair towers were totally redesigned by an outside engineer, a very good one, Ashley Weather, correct? So we redesigned the stair towers, paid an outside engineer, and that's it for approval and moving forward.
Yeah, and this is what frustrates me about this project. We have an architect, we've got an engineering company, and whether they change personnel or not, that's not our problem. They're the ones that need to be stepping up to their contract. And, I'm not talking about you guys. But we paid them a lot of money. And we keep running into these challenges. I mean, there's a couple on the list that, this hasn't been designed yet. Why not? It's been, 5 years that we've had this pier to be built, designed and built. Why isn't it designed yet? Why are we still running into challenges that, wait, this has to be designed, and now we have to run back to our engineers that were supposed to be doing the designing in the first place and get approval, and they're postponing the approvals? Why? I thought this is the kind of problems that we had project managers coming on board to solve for us. And I'm not hearing that they're doing that. Because, we've got a contractor trying to build something, and he keeps running into the same kind of roadblocks. I mean, I'm glad we finally got the ADA figured out, but we keep having the same type of problems. I would have hoped some of those challenges with lack of responses, lack of decisions, lack of designs would have been resolved by now.
Well, Doc and Matt did not file contracting 101 for the sake of the project. So what I can tell you, like I said earlier, is the siding's on site at risk, and we're going to put it
Well,
up.
and thank goodness for that,
Then-
because we're dropping the ball everywhere else.
Right.
So
I don't, any major, you got the crossover,
What the major issues?
the major
The
design.
real major issue right now is getting approval on storefront windows and getting the DE lighting camera that they've been working on for 13 months.
I got one for you.
What was the,
They've been working on the DE lighting camera for 13 months. We talked about this last summer.
So I think we've skinny, we're down to a couple. And if it's something that we can order at risk and just hope that council, whatever comes up that's not approved, we can work through, which is what I believe we can, then we've done that.
But
if
there's no
it's-
excuse not to have the approvals when you need them.
it's-
I mean, these people have been on this project for 5 years, and whether they're changing personnel, it's still Collins Engineering whose name is on the project.
Yeah.
They are the engineers of record. So I don't see that they have an excuse for some of these things not happening.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
why can't we have Collins to come in when they're here and answer some of these questions? Why are we having one side here and the other side 400 miles down the road or whatever? Why ain't they here answering the questions that they need?
So
Yeah.
Why haven't you brought him in at the same time you're bringing these people
Well,
in?
the reason I did it this way is, number one, I thought we were presenting with an update on what we were doing and where we were going. I didn't realize that we get this way, but I agree with you 100%. I know our consultant engineers, they're not project managers. They're looking at what's going on. They're keeping records of what's going on. So at the end of this, if things happen, we're ready for it. And in addition to that, the siding, it took a little while, but we made a decision and we ordered the siding based on more on the fact that we, after talking to John, we couldn't guarantee if we went the other way that we would be able to get the other siding that we needed. Other decisions have been made and they're going forward. I would love a list of all the issues. I've got lists of issues, but I would like some that Councilman Keating is talking about. Let's bring in our consultants, let's bring in our engineers, and let's discuss it, because I think it's a lot better than it's being portrayed.
I can answer, I think I can answer. So as far as the engineers, Jonathan Sigmund was the lead engineer kind of over the project. He had been here before, but he did take a position at another engineering company. Looking at this as an outside, as a contractor, this is a little bit peculiar the way it was procured. So you have your engineer and your architect. And typically you have a lead designer. So that's, like here, it's us, consensus, and then we have subcontractors. So buck stops at us, something's wrong, we got to go to Intercoastal, we got to go to Melton Electric. On this particular one, you have an architect and engineer both. So there are, say, doctors like 4 or 5, there might be 3 that are maybe architectural and then maybe 2 structural. So you have both and you kind of have.
Ones we are waiting for.
Yes.
They're not-
So-
they're not structured.
So we've gotten through the structural, but now the remaining ones are actually architecture, like the handrails.
What I'm getting at is, you're talking about 13 months for hand railing. You've been discussing this for 13 months. You're telling us one thing. Why ain't Collins here saying, why? Tell us why they ain't done it. You're telling us one thing. Why ain't we hearing the other side of this? We just getting one side. And whether y'all honest, truthful, whatever, we don't know the other side of it. Why ain't they doing it? If they were here to tell me that they're a problem on their side, that they can't get it, I could understand it. But when you sit here and tell me one side of it, I can't get the whole picture of the story. Besides that, I'm getting off topic. Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
There's another question I want to ask you. On the pylons that you're putting in from 8th through 13th,
Yes, sir.
is everything all right from that point out, from the 8th through the 13th, or are we still having problems with how deep we got to go with them? Or whatever?
So from the way, there's a geotechnical report
Yes.
conducted prior to construction. And what that does is it shows the location of the hard material below the sand line. It does not show the material composition. So when Intercoastal went out to the full length on the trestle, they had no problems until they got to the last 2, which they came up with a way to rectify. They basically hit a pocket of like harder material but softer, and then it gets into soft material and then a very hard one, which then they can get the embedment and the resistance. So what they did is, Doc, correct me if I'm wrong, they extended the pile and got the resistance. So to answer that question, there is a chance on the last 2, the very furthest out, that there is a condition similar, which then we would have to make the last 4.
The last 4 are closer together than the last.
So the last few, there is that potential, but when you're dealing with underground, you just don't know what's there. So basically it was the hard material, softer material, and then like steel. And they actually had to change from an impact hammer to a vibratory hammer to get it into the rock to get the resistance, which was successful. So to answer your question is, one of the positive things from talking to different engineers and a lot of the pile drivers and technical. The system that we're doing right now works. The system that was bid would have never worked, ever. So the positive thing is the system that the engineers collectively with the design engineers with this two-part system, hollow, it functions. So it's a redesign. So it works. It's going to function. The other one, looking back now, because it's a unique project, a solid concrete pile getting embedded, it's impossible. So it was changed to work, and it is every pile that is in the ground, whether trestle or permanent, has tested out and performed to spec.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
y'all mentioned a few minutes ago about Surf Diner and the windows, which I was kind of shocked to hear that we're making a change now after we got buildings built, ready for windows. When did this come up? Or is this something?
So
That's gotta stop.
it's not uncommon, but it has been going on for a long time. So
Okay.
basically, and then I'll let Mr. Shanahan paraphrase correct me, but
Right.
when you have one of these situations, you have an existing lease
Right.
obligation, which we are trying to work with the town.
But that doesn't have nothing to do with us putting the,
The opening did change, just different.
Yeah.
windows.
well, I know, that'll change 20 times before it's over with. I mean, we need to pick a window, and that's the window all the buildings are getting, and this is it.
That's correct. And there's a couple.
And that way y'all can do the job and don't have to keep second guessing yourself.
The Surfside's architect is working with OS3P, and we're just.
Are they paying the difference? Are they paying the
They
delays?
will be, yes.
They need to pay delays, they need to pay differences and everything else.
What about the handrail? We're still waiting for the handrail.
So basically,
That's not on Bill Howard, that's on OS3P.
right. So basically, when you have a lease, if I've worked on a developer
Yeah.
side, you have a lease and then you agree on certain things that are verbalized by an attorney, and then you work with them and try to integrate that into design. Some of those things are in there and some of them are not. So like, for instance, whether the handrails are designed a certain way, his lease says the other way. You have one opinion, another opinion, but we got to order them. Same with the windows. That's been going on for a long time. So
That needs to stop. I mean, it needs to be, y'all need to be, this is what we're putting in. Thank you. Have a nice day.
I couldn't
mean,
agree
'cause
more.
I can't believe his contract would have anything to do with the windows or the type of siding or anything else in between.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Okay.
I think,
That needs to come to a halt quick.
yeah.
Our contract gives them the authority to make changes and make recommendations. Now, we have to approve any of those recommendations. And I'll give you an example in reference to the windows. They wanted to put reflective windows out there so the sunlight would hit it and bounce out. We turned it down. We're not doing
No.
that because we're gonna cook everyone on the pier or on the
Right.
beach,
Yeah,
depending
no.
on where the sun is.
Simple.
But the framework itself is the same. It's just what goes.
We still don't have a window. That's the problem.
Mhm.
We got to get the windows and we got to get them in. And if the answer is as simple as no, then no,
Yeah.
and move forward.
And we're in that peculiar situation where, we have a contract to do X, but at the same time, we're trying to take a path of least resistance. So like, if the handrail is designed as hot wire and then they want a cable system, when we go to order it, it makes it easier for you, the town or whatever, but we just need it.
Yeah.
So that's an example. But at some point, we may get to the point where we just build something and then we're going to take down something we build and then put something back up. Because,
And,
and we're trying to,
Yeah.
we're trying to avoid that and we're trying to be the friend, but yes, it's costing us time and money.
right.
Didn't they already come up with the type of cable? Because I remember telling them what they originally wanted, we didn't want because it was dangerous for kids to climb
Climb up
over or
on.
go through.
We agree. We agree.
OS3P is researching the handrail. They're supposed to be getting it to us because you might have to use a particular post that goes with the cable handrail system. That's what we don't have. I mean, we could have done it ourselves. They would have just gave us a manufacturer, but
Are they still looking into a vertical?
we don't know.
So basically, our opinion, and Matt, by the way, our project manager, he's having a baby tonight. That's why he's not here, but he's the technical guy that deals with So it was a stainless steel hog wire, which was safe. You could see it doesn't have the same visibility, but I mean, it's better than anything you've seen all around here.
Right.
That's what's in the design. His lease says cable system.
Mhm.
So they have entertained. So it's correct. When we talked about the cable system this way,
Yeah.
they are concerned about kids climbing up.
them up, yeah.
Then they came up, they're investigating a vertical cable system, which looks amazing, but we don't have it yet, and it's probably very expensive.
Mhm.
So, all three systems are good, but we don't have it yet. We don't have a design. We can't order it.
Mr. Mayor, again, I thought we had already come to agreement that we had a deadline for Surf Diner to turn in what they needed, and
Yes.
after that deadline, we were going to go ahead and do the project. What happened to that plan?
As far as I know, they've been turning in the stuff and it's been going to the engineers and they've been, as you said, they've been reviewing it, making sure we can do it.
But we had a deadline on what they were
I don't
supposed to turn.
remember.
Yeah, we did.
So that I might be speaking out of context, but I believe they turned in their request.
Yeah.
And then the architect has to review it, redesign their request, and that's the phase we're in. Because right now,
They
like
will be
basically you got like right now you have a handrail system going all around that it's got holes. It's stainless steel, but it's like wire.
Yeah.
And then they wanted
But
to
we had,
explore two different options of cable or vertical cable, and there's a million different varieties, Matt. You can get a cheap one at Home Depot, and that's not safe, and you can get one that you would put on a 5-star hotel roof.
yeah, but you're saying they're turning in a request for changing windows. Why are they turning in a change now? This deadline was months ago. Why do you come up with another change this late in the game? That should have been decided months ago when we told them there's a deadline. You need to get in what you want, and that's what's supposed to be happening. According to what you're saying, what I'm hearing right now, they're turning in something a month ago or a couple weeks ago.
It's probably a
And
couple
it's-
months ago, yeah.
Yeah. and
I mean,
it's-
we put in several notices, but unfortunately, the process is this. Surf Diner, instead of using the design team that's already under contract, they elected to use an outside firm, which is a good one we work with. So now you have one other level of design in the process. So they put in their request, you have a meeting, it goes to their architect, they design it, it goes to your architect and engineer, and they approve redesigned. So boom, boom, and then the submittal process. So I do feel your pain, and I agree with you 100%, but that's the process.
So with what you have at the Surf Diner is the Surf Diner itself, the restaurant, holding up the construction of the pier?
I would say.
They're part of it, yes.
Yes, part of it, yes, but a lot of it.
The pier of the building.
But like the glass this is like the second or third resubmit for the glass, which involves some of the items. And then the design team gets 14 or 21 days to review the submittal. And they turn it, then we have to correct what they want. That might take a couple weeks to get to the supplier because everybody's understaffed, and then we get it back to them, and then it's goes on until it's approved.
So yes and no, because if they meet the deadline for their architect to do the design, then it has to go to the towns.
Right.
So it's probably on both sides. There are certain things that are on our side, but on this particular one, that's not our situation.
Okay.
Okay, my last question,
Yes,
which is the
Mr. Mayor.
elephant in the room.
Yes.
We originally had a date of completion of July 4th of this year. Then we went and it got put on to October or early next year. Do we have a tentative finish date at this time?
Yes, so we have outstanding every month now. Every month there's an updated schedule. There's an accelerated schedule, and then there's a working schedule that's submitted. So every month with the pay application. So there's one in, I don't know, what the time period. I think July. I think the original contract date was without any additional, days was somewhere around in August. So, I don't know how many days are added, but they have done updated schedules, and we're using a third party scheduler to do that. He's down in Kiwa or something, like an engineer, and then we've been submitting them every month. So you have one schedule that's called an entitlement schedule. So you do your schedule, if there's a delay, like a surf diner, then that shows you what we're entitled to. And then to beat that, we do what's called an accelerated schedule. So that's our working schedule. So we might be entitled to this many days, but we're trying to finish in this days, and that's what we work off. And every month we're submitting 2 versions.
So it's right now, you don't have a completion date.
It's on the, there's 2 schedules. Yeah, there's a schedule that was submitted last month on the 25th, and the updated one will be put on the 25th here.
And what are those dates?
I think on the accelerated schedule, is it November?
That's what I saw.
Yeah, but we still have some things that are going to impact.
When you say, excuse me, when you say November, you're, in that case, you're talking about the pier, the buildings constructed on the outside and then turned over to them to do the inside?
So there's different activities, different
Right.
activities. So with all minus anything, with the windows,
Mhm.
things of that nature, the podium and the pier is something that's directly under consensus umbrella because we have the whole project, and then we actually are doing everything for the podium back.
Okay.
I don't see major issues there except for some, delays at Surf Diner, a fire protection. The ocean one, I'm kind of relying on schedules that are turned into me from the marine contractor. So I don't foresee any major issues with the podium, the structure, things of that nature, elevator.
Well, as long as we get decisions on the lighting.
Yeah, because these things got to be ordered. So like when we ordered things like siding, said we could get them. If they told us 6 weeks and they guaranteed it, then we get it in 4. But when you're ordering equipment now, we're doing things like changing from train for Starbucks to get it because they're saying 38 weeks. Well, you can't get 38 weeks equipment for Starbucks. That has to be turned over in 90 days. So we've found some equipment. So these decisions need to be made, and then it depends on what's related for the order. Because right now, if you order something that used to be 4 weeks, you may hear from the manufacturer 40. It's just, so I don't, things like concrete and stuff like that, it doesn't apply, but it does apply to things like windows, HVAC custom equipment. You'll really run into it with the restaurants and stuff like that, with kitchen equipment and things of that nature.
Was Coastal on the same schedule pretty well that y'all are? Are they going to be done in November?
That's the schedule they gave us.
Yes.
I'm suspect to it, so we'll look at
Me
their
too.
one. Yeah. I think that if they, my honest opinion, if they don't have issues out there on the last, 2 to 4, then yes. I think if they do, it's going to be an engineering. They're going to have to extend the pile, So that's just something you can't, you're going to be 20, 30 feet below mud line into a rock, and they got to come up, and that's not something they can order like siding and just hope that it works. They have to get the engineer to review, the actual geotech that they find. Our engineers will prepare a solution, and then it'll have to go to the town's engineer to approve. So
So realistically, you're saying next year sometimes.
I think so.
We're trying to get to,
But
realistic.
the thing that I would present to council to take in consideration for the citizens is we need to put out there that this contract, we're at the site work and things of that nature, is a shell. So in their mind, when they think pier, they're already thinking ice cream shop, restaurant, or whatever.
No.
Those leases got to be signed, then that has to be designed. So I would, if I was going to be 100%, if I was in your situation, going to be 100% truthful and transparent with the citizens, you got to let them know that all the upfits and all that is another project. And then this project's going to fall well before that, because you have to design the bait shop, whatever you decide, the ice cream shop, the restaurants under design. I don't know if you're going to have a sandwich shop or a bar, but all that needs to be designed, permitted, and built. So your actual show, you'll have a pier that you can walk on, but you probably are not going to be able to get, a margarita and
You ain't gonna be out there be able to go get a hamburger in November, are you?
not unless something happens real quick. So that if
Well, I think
that's
what
something we
we've
got to
said.
focus on.
That's typically what we've said, that the pier will be available, this fall, but realistically, the businesses themselves on the pier will not be open for business until next spring.
Correct. And that's aggressive depending on their design team
Right.
and the permitting. And because it's Surfside, you may be able to expedite it, but Horry County's taking 6 to 9 months for a permit sometimes right now. So,
Mr. Kingston.
Mr. Mayor. John,
yes,
when you were talking about the parking lot, did you happen to figure out how many parking spaces there'll be?
yes,
That
it's on,
tour.
there's a table on every design. I don't have it offhand, but on the
Okay.
actual plan, part of the requirement is the civil engineer will do a table and it'll have how many parking spaces, how many handicap, things of that nature. But I
It's
believe
pretty much the same footprint.
Sabrina is the
Yeah.
expert in this, but when you do add landscaping, correct? Then you can move some parking spots. If they add landscaping buffers into the parking lot, then that affects how many parking spaces. But that's promoted, because they want landscape. So basically, if putting in landscaping takes away 4 spots, that's kind of promoted by.
Yeah.
Right.
But the sidewalk could be done in pavers, the other stuff could be done in that.
That can all be done.
That'd
and
be
we're not-
beautification, and
Yep.
it goes back to the drainage situation and everything else too. So
The best situation for these guys that have to get utilities in right now is to make a decision on that. Well, they kind of did, which is 4, which is tearing it up. Then we can tear that up, get to the base and start running utilities and all that kind of stuff while we do what goes back.
Right.
If you do it the other way, you're going to delay the parking
Oh,
lot
God,
way
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
But the best way to do it for these guys and our utility guys and electrician is allow us to tear it up, expose the base,
Right.
start doing that work, and then you finalize, do you want the asphalt, do you want sidewalk, that
concrete, whatever you want.
can be done easily. Yes, sir.
Which we're gonna be talking about, because we could actually add it to the contract if need be.
Well, we thank you for your information.
Always a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, council.
Next thing is discussion.
Yeah, I was just gonna give a quick update about the vendors.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, sir. As you all know, we hired a commercial lawyer, and he's put together a draft contract, and we call it draft because we're getting numbers. Yeah, the goal is now is to get the right numbers off the vendors, so we can put them in, so we'll have a completed one. And of course, upon that, then we would bring it to the council for approval, that y'all would have final approval. We've already met with, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to use names, so we've already, and while the negotiations go on, we've, yeah, and Building B, we're gonna be meeting with them on Tuesday. We were supposed to meet this week, but they had something going on that was an emergency, so we'll be doing that. We'll be dealing with fishing and stuff like that. The other one in the middle, we met with them. It was a very good meeting. With negotiation costs right now. And in fact, they sent me an email just before I got here, so I'll have to read it when the meeting's over and see what they said. And then D, we had some issues with that. The DHAC OCRM basically said that you cannot have a structure at the bottom of the pier. And 2 reasons that they gave was, number one, when this pier was, the original footprint was made before it was blown down, they'd gotten a permit to put a 3rd building on there that took up and then they added size for the restaurant on the back and on the side. And that took up to 35% of space that you can use, or buildings that you can use. And then the other thing is you can't put anything like that past the halfway point of the actual pier. And we've got the documentation. I met with that vendor and I explained that to him, and I did explain that, you can have something at the bottom of the pier, and but you just can't leave it there overnight. And so I have to meet with him and figure out what he would like to do and take next steps from there. We've no choice in that. I mean, that's coming from pay grades way above any of us. But saying that, I just got a text off him saying he wanted to meet, so I'm gonna go see him after this meeting's over with. But we are moving forward with it. We're getting it, as he said, getting it as quickly as possible, and you know, hopefully these guys will be interested in using the folks out there to do the upfit, because if you do that, then you don't have to remove, you don't have to send them home and bring in another group. So that would hopefully make it easier for them. In reference to the pier signs that they were talking, the signs on the building, the siding that was ordered, it breathes, it grows and it gets smaller. So based on that, you can't actually drill holes in it to create the siding. So working with Sabrina and John and working with Eric, we've identified where we can put the signs, and they'll build attachments that you put the signs on that won't actually be connected to the siding. We went out there today, we identified where they can go, and Sabrina identified the sizes that they could be. So that information, if it didn't go out this afternoon to the engineers, it will be going out in the morning. So that has been handled. What else were we talking about there? Boom, boom, boom. Powers, again, we've been working with the power folks that work for the contractor, not the contractor, excuse me, for the engineer. And we've identified what we would like out there. And now what they're doing is they're going through, you know, what it would take to make that happen. And they have been down, you know, the example that was given to them was Folly Beach. So they've been down and they know exactly what's in Folly Beach. And it's, you know, it's not the same as some folks think, but we know what's there and we know what it's going to take. And they're just putting all that stuff together. And so we are moving forward with that. And then based on this, I would love to bring in our engineers and LS3P to talk about some of the information and why some of that information is taking so long, because I think you'll need to know it.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next thing in the business is a decision paper, award of comprehensive plan consultant by Director Dare.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. An RFP for the comprehensive plan was let and advertised per ordinance. The RFP was opened on June 27th at 10 a.m. I did put a copy of the bid opening results in your packets. Staff recommends awarding the contract to Stewart. We had 2 bids. Stewart works almost exclusively with small and mid-sized communities. Coastal communities are a particular focus for Stewart. They have developed comprehensive plans and coastal area management land use plans for several municipalities in both North and South Carolina. They have a team of planners and designers with a decade of local government planning experience. They're proficient in small area plan creation, development ordinance writing, and they have an extensive GIS mapping section, and understand the interplay between land use, potential growth, infrastructure needs, and other elements necessary to craft an effective plan. They have experience with communities like Surfside that are approaching build out and focusing on quality of life and enhancing visitor and residents experience. The proposal included a budget amount of $45,000 to $50,000. This is a budgeted item, and this amount is within the budget, and it's less than half of the competing proposal. We did reach out to the towns that they had worked for in the past, and all gave them very positive comments. And we recommend Stewart.
Mr.
Any
Mayor,
question? Go ahead.
did they say how many pages it was going to be? Because our last one was extensive.
Yeah, and actually, once we, or if this is approved tonight, we're going to meet with them, because our planning commission made it pretty clear that they don't want the fluff, and I can certainly understand that. Myrtle Beach did the exact same thing. They went from 300 pages to 100 or less, and that's basically what we're looking for. So their bid I mean, once we tell them what we want, that bid may even go down some. But yes, we're going to tell them we don't want the fluff. We'd rather just have the required details.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
as I know from what we've been through, everything on the other one, are they going to have people here and attending meetings and?
Yeah, they are going to have, yes, sir. They are going to have they're proposing a grand start. They're going to meet with the planning commission. They're going to meet they've requested that if they get the bid, they want to meet with council. And they're going to have stakeholder meetings because we told them that was very important. Some of the interaction will be on Zoom meetings and kind of like we do now with some of the attorneys, but they will be interacting through the entire process. Yes.
Any other questions? How long do you think that it's going to take them to complete their?
It'll be, if they're doing it the way they're proposed and in speaking with the other municipalities, it'll be next year, probably, I'd say August or September, it'll be complete.
And when is our deadline to
December
have it?
of
December.
next year. Mhm.
Okay.
Do we need to approve this?
Yes.
Yeah, somebody needs to make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize Director Adair to accept the proposal from Stewart for their assistance in developing the next 10-year comprehensive plan.
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion before we vote on it? Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Holder,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Reckloff,
Yes.
Kinkin,
Yes.
Drake,
Yes.
and I'm yes too. So
Thank you.
it passed unanimously. Thank you
Thanks.
very much. And next thing on the agenda is public comments, and these are public comments pertaining to town services. So do we have any public comments? Good evening.
Hello, Tabitha Mall will keep Surfside Beach beautiful. I just wanted to do 2 public comments here. The first one is we would like to invite everyone out there in our town. If you have a friend outside of town, just bring a friend, whatever you need to do, and come enjoy our beach sweep on August the 13th. And then second, that's on 3rd Avenue North. So don't let me forget that. And then the second piece is the Yard of the Month nominations are barreling in. So if you have someone out there that you want to recognize for the Yard of the Month, please get that in by July 15th. And that's all. Thanks for everything. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next thing will be the town council discussion and comments. And we do not have an executive session tonight, so we'll take it from here. Mr. Stamey.
So we can make it as long as we want to.
Yeah.
To start out with, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and I hope everyone online and who is here has had a great 4th of July. I'd like to thank Rob for the golf cart parade. I'm sorry festival got rained out, but it happens. And another thing I'd like to recognize is our police department. Our police department here in Surfside has done a great job in capturing the guy who broke into a house and done harm to a lady. And for our police department, all kudos to you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm glad you're doing your job. And then everybody else. The town has worked great together. We have some great people in town hall. We have great people all around. And I love being here. I want everybody to participate, get out more, tell us what's wrong, tell us what you're thinking, and let me know. I can sit here and make my suggestions on a lot of things, but if I don't know how you feel, I'm just making something that I think of. I'd love to hear from everybody. I'm saying that, y'all have a good night.
Mr. Holder.
Yes, thank everybody for coming tonight and those that are online. It's great to see again all the vacationers here that are here this summer, because every place is full. You ride by every place. And I still have a friend that's wanting to rent a place and can't find one here. And so it's really tough. But I also want to thank the job that our police and fire department done. But not only that, all our workers for the town, they got out for the parade. They put the roadblocks up and did all the work for that. And they do it all the time, work hard, and it shows in our town. So great job. And thank you for the planning board and everything y'all do, because I like seeing these numbers and keep it up. So thank you.
Ms. Keating.
I want to thank everybody for coming out and those that are tuning in online. We had a very easy and short agenda tonight, so that's a bit refreshing. We can actually get out in daylight again. I hope everybody's getting the information they need and they want. We are challenged periodically by, different modes of communication, and not everyone has the same information to share. So by all means, if there's something you have questions about, contact one of your council people, contact town hall directly. They're probably more informed of details and specifics than council is, but we can certainly facilitate and get those conversations going. So as always, stay safe, stay healthy. COVID is still out there and it's coming back around a couple times. I know several friends of mine are on their second and third lap with it. So continue to stay safe and stay healthy and have a good night. See you in a couple weeks. Thanks.
Mr. Cracklaw.
I'd also like to thank everyone for coming out and listening online. I'd also like to say when, I believe it's Stewart, I can't remember, the company that's going to be coming to town, make your views available to them. It's a very important thing. It's a 10-year plan, what people would like to see happen in the town or what they would like to get accomplished in the next 10 years and take an active part in that. With that being said, good night and have a safe trip home from here.
Mr. Kinkin.
I also want to thank everyone for attending or tuning in. We're very fortunate to have such a great staff, qualified first responders, and our public works. Thank you for all you do and to keep the town functioning safe and clean. Great job with the golf cart parade. I had a young man that was handicapped standing in front of me. I've never enjoyed anything as much as watching him. He was so excited. It was fun to watch. At the last workshop, Mrs. Goddard made the comment about the cost to clean up after fireworks. It would be interesting to know how much we spent on Tuesday cleaning up the fireworks. I did a beach sweep last weekend and I ended up with half a bag of trash, and probably 60% of what I picked up was fireworks related. So we made the right decision in not allowing fireworks every night. I really do feel that. And I just think that's the right thing to do because it does create a mess. We live in a wonderful town and we want to keep it that way. And I do agree, if you've got something about on the planning for 10 years, speak up, let people know, because we are making a plan that's going to carry us through the next 10 years. And some of us won't be here, but some of us will. So it's important that you get your thoughts and let it be known. Thank you all and have a great week.
Mr. Drake.
I'd like to thank everybody for showing up tonight and coming out and tuning in online. I'd like to thank the Surfside Beach employees, all of them from the police department, fire department, public works. Rob, y'all did a great job. And the 10-year plan is a very important plan. And I would love for everybody to concentrate on 17 to make sure our business section out there really gets to kickstart it needs to look good. And the buildings, facilities, and the type of businesses we bring into Surfside. And to keep that in mind and make your voice heard. That's very important. Thank you very much. Y'all have a good one.
Okay, we had some bad weather during the 4th of July, and we had a bunch of stuff get canceled. Our Martins Field got canceled. Our music in the park got canceled last weekend. So, you know, but these things I think people really enjoy. And the music in the park, we have about 70 people there every weekend that are coming down to see this. So I think that we're going to continue it, and I think that that's a great place for residents to come out. I don't know if many of you know this, but Public Works, we have always, you know, they have gone and we usually go to a nursery down in Murrells Inlet and get those baskets that we hang on Surfside Drive, and they're on Ocean Boulevard too. And sometimes over the past few years, when we go to get them, sometimes they look really nice. Sometimes they don't look that good, you know, but it is what it is. We order them and they come in. Well, last year, our Public Works people were saying that, you know, sometimes the baskets don't come. We'd like to do them ourselves. So it was a trial this year where they basically went out and planted those baskets and did them themselves and everything.
Good.
And if you go down Surfside Drive and you go down Ocean Boulevard and take a look at those baskets, they're phenomenal compared to what they've been in the past. So I think Public Works needs a good thank you for the job they're doing on those. And as far as public security and people feeling good in the town, we had a major crime happen on the 3rd of July. And a couple of days later, we made an arrest and it got done. So the police department deserves a lot of recognition for doing that and the hard work they put in to get this solved. But by them solving these crimes, it's making us all feel safer. So I was talking to the town administrator, and, you know, I think that we're going to have something shortly where we thank the town employees for the good work that they're doing for us and invite everybody to come and say hey to them. So keep looking for that, because it's probably going to come. And I thank you all for coming tonight, and you guys have a good rest of the summer, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
And with
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
all those in favor,
Aye.
done.
Everybody.
Out of here.